fix of 1869. Right? We heard about the Hunt Brothers silver fix in 1980, but this was much earlier, and it's much more interesting.
All right, I'll get you started. All right. All right.
Just hit the button.
Okay.
Okay, so this is about the gold fix of 1869. Prior to the Civil War, gold was the money of the land. Okay, if you wanted, there was paper money to be sure, but they were issued by private banks. And when the Civil War started, to finance the Civil War, the Union started printing the legal tender notes, which were not backed by gold, and this created a dichotomy between gold and the paper money. And so it started in New York City, in back of the stock exchange, was called the gold room. What they would do is they would figure out what the price of gold is in relation to the greenback, the legal tender note. And this was during the war. Anytime there was bad news, and there was lots of bad news, they would bid up the price of gold. And it got so bad in July of 1864, gold was bid up to $300 in greenbacks. Now we don't. Nowadays we think of gold per ounce. Okay, at the time, gold was pretty much $16 an ounce, and that was worldwide. But what did change was the price of the greenback to the gold. So when they say gold is $300, that's compared to greenbacks. So if you wanted to convert it the other way and buy greenbacks, it was only 35 cents for $100 in United States notes at the worst time. By the time the war ended, it got a little better. It was about 144 greenbacks to gold. And but the bidding on gold continued. There was a speculation all the time on this imbalance. They used to say that the gold room was General Lee's left flank because it kind of hurt the economy. Every time gold went higher, that means the greenback went lower, and that means the entire economy got weaker because everyone was getting paid in greenbacks. Okay, so when you affect the price of gold back then, you really hurt the economy. Okay, so that's why it was very important that gold remained steady and stable. So the story begins with in 1868. There is a guy named Cornelius Vanderbilt. He is the richest man in the country, maybe the world. He owns all the railroads in the Northeast. He owns all the shipping lanes and all the ships, except for one railroad, which is the Erie Railroad, which ran from Jersey City to Lake Erie. And he wanted that railroad really bad. That was owned by a guy named Daniel Drew. And now Daniel Drew was getting old in his age, so he hired some young guns for his board of directors. One of them was a guy named Jay Gould, and the other one was Jim Fisk. Now, these guys were real sharp. Let me just give you an example of how sharp they were. And Daniel Drew was a sharpie too. Back in his early days, he used to run cattle. Okay, and have you ever heard of what a watered stock? Okay, well, he literally watered his stock when he was dealing cattle. He would feed them salt and then the cattle would drink water to fill them up and get heavy, and then he'd sell them. Okay. Well, they did this with their own stock, the Erie stock, because Cornelius Vanderbilt wanted it really bad. So what they did, Jay Gould, Jim Fisk, they went down to the basement and printed out stock certificates. And they sold them to Cornelius Vanderbilt, all he wanted. And it was, they printed and sold $10 million worth of stock. This was watering their own stock. And he bought it, Vanderbilt bought it all. When he found out about it, he went after it, okay? He had all the judges and politicians in his, what you might say, back pocket at the time. It was Vanderbilt. So Jim Fisk and Jay Gould had to escape New York. They went to New Jersey and hid out for a year. But they learned from that if you're going to screw someone really bad, you better have the judges on your side. Okay, so they formulated a plan. This is their next plan, and after they were safe to come back to New York. Now, by this time, their Erie Railroad was broke, and so what they did to get money was what was called a lockup. Okay. Now, they had become, by this time, president of the Erie Railroad and the controllers. This is Jay Gould and Jim Fisk. Daniel Drew was still there, but he was not in control so much. So, but this time, they got together with all the politicians and the judges and gave them some money to get them in their back pocket now. One of the politicians was a guy named Boss Tweed, which you've probably heard about from his very famous escapades. And what they tried now was what was called a lockup. It was a bear road. They had a very weak company, and what they did was they printed more stock. They talked down their company. They said, oh, we're in such bad shape, it's going to go bankrupt and this and that. Anyway, the price of their stock went from $60 or $70 actually down to $40 in like a month. Okay, they just talked it down to this. But before they did that, they sold it, meaning they sold it beforehand. So every time it went down, they would actually make money when they bought it back. So this was their plan because they had no money. So they did this, and by within 3 months, it went from $70 down to $40. And then they bought for $12 million, them and their friends, $12 million of this stock. And miraculously, within a week, it went back up to $60. And they pocketed the profit, which was huge. But what they learned when they did this was that gold was affected. Okay, the price of gold went down when they did their money lockup, and the Erie price went down. And then when they did their buy-in, gold went back up. So, and we're talking a minor amount. It went from 133. It went from 145 down to 132. This is gold. During their short, driving the price down of the Erie Railroad. And then when they were buying it back, it went from 133 to 137. And in the meantime, they bought this gold too. So they were making a lot of money on the gold market. Now the problem was, and they realized they could manipulate the price of gold however they wanted to, except that the government was selling gold. We had a new president, General Grant. He had just taken office in March, and this was September of 1869. And he had made a pledge to bring the greenback back to parity with gold, meaning it would be 1-1, it would go down to 100. Okay. So that was his campaign pledge. So every month they were selling $2 million worth of gold into the market to drive the price of gold down. So as long as they're doing that, Jay Gould and Jim Fisk can't do anything about raising the price of gold because there's too much pressure. So that was the only thing that stopped them from doing anything. But just by chance, Jay Gould ran into the brother-in-law of President Grant. His name was Abel Corbin. And he said, he put in his mind that, oh, wouldn't it be great if the government would stop selling gold? It would make gold go higher. And with higher gold, that means the greenback would be cheaper. And maybe those farmers out west would be a lot happier selling their grain and stuff with cheap dollars. And so he put that in his mind into Abel Corbin's mind and said, why don't you tell the president too? So he got on board on this. And then he mentioned it to President Grant. President Grant was like, I don't really care, you know. But after a little bit of prodding, he convinced President Grant to stop his gold sales. So this opened up all of the opportunity for Jay Gould and Jim Fisk to drive up the price of gold. Now, at this time, there was about $15 million worth of gold in circulation. There was $100 million in the treasury in gold. So there was a lot of overhang. By stopping the threat of selling any gold, it was good for everybody, Jay Gould. And in August, they started buying gold at $135 per hundred. And now what they could do as a stock manipulator and trader and all that, they could buy gold and then they could loan it to whoever, banks or whatever, get a full, get one-to-one on the money that they paid and buy more gold. So they would be, as long as gold was going up, this is great. They could buy as much gold as they wanted to, and all they had to pay was the interest. This was amazing margins for them. And that's what they did. They bought and bought. They got their friends to buy gold, everybody. So this is in August of 1869. They're buying it at $135, and they drive the price up slowly at first. And it all hinged on whether the government was going to sell. So now the gold room in the trading floor in New York City was small, but kind of a big cavern place. And just people would go there and they would shout out their buy orders. Okay, there was no electronics or anything like that. There was, however, a gauge where they would put the price of gold out in the street and to other brokerage houses in New York City. The guy operating it was Thomas Edison. Okay, he was the clerk doing the pricing for the gold. So they also had a big fountain in the middle of the room with two cupids spitting water, and in this fountain was goldfish. So now Abel Corbin, he put a news editorial in the Times saying that now President Grant is not going to be selling any gold. So everyone is like, wow, okay, well let's all buy. So everyone is buying gold. Normal trading day at the time was $70 million. Now it's up to $170 million per day. And everyone is buying more gold. Now, at this time, General Grant is on his way. He goes out to Pittsburgh in a little town outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, called Washington. And he's staying there for a couple days, out of touch with anybody. There's no telegraphs or anything. And Jay Gould is nervous because he's got like $70 million worth of gold, and he wants to make sure that President Grant is on board, even though President Grant really doesn't know he's on board. So he sends a rider out there overnight to go out to this small town and to just make sure that the president is on board. Well, by doing that, the president gets like, why are you doing this? Why are you coming out here to question me about this? It's such a little thing. And then he said, well, maybe it's not such a little thing. And then he realizes that he's being played. And he starts to brood about it and says, well, okay, well, when I get back to Washington, D.C., I'm going to start selling gold again. He tells his daughter, who's married to Abel Corbin, if you have any gold, or if my son-in-law has any gold, he better sell it. So along with the rider going back to New York, is this letter from, it's actually from Grant's wife, saying, you better sell your gold, and be careful. So Abel Corbin gets this letter, and it tips him off that, oh my God, the jig is up. The government's going to sell gold. And he gives it to Jay Gould. And Jay Gould is like, oh, this is the end. So they keep the letter secret. And going into September, around September 8th, gold is around 137 and it's going up to 140. Jay Gould starts selling quietly. He doesn't tell his partners. Okay? He doesn't tell anybody. And he works through other channels. So now he tells Jim Fisk, let's go buy some more, go buy some more. So Jim Fisk, his partner, is buying over here, and Jay Gould is selling over here. And the price is still going up. On Thursday, this is September 23rd, this is the day before what they call Black Friday. This is when everything comes to a head. The prices are just going crazy. The prices are going up so fast that Thomas Edison can't keep up with his ticker on the pricing. Gold is up to 140, goes up to 144, and everyone is like, going crazy. So that evening, General Grant gets back to Washington and makes a decision. He's going to start selling gold the next day on Friday. So on Friday, in the morning, Jay Gould tells all the bankers that have loans out to him, he's going to take delivery of his gold. Okay, and this scares them because now, they're going to have to shuffle around and get the money. It's another one of these what they call lockups, like he did earlier. He ties up all the credit. That forces gold a lot higher. All right, and as the trading begins on Black Friday, which is September 24th, everyone is bidding gold up higher and higher, and there's people who are dismayed by how high it's going. They had shorted it, and every time it goes up, they're like, I'm losing millions of dollars. And for example, every dollar increase in the amount of gold that they saw, Jay Gould and his partner were making about $700,000. Okay, so in one day, now it's up by 11 o'clock. By 11 o'clock it was up to $155, and Gould is selling. He sold $40 million that morning worth of gold. Jim Fisk is partner is buying. 11:30, Grant tells his Treasury Secretary to sell $5 million worth of gold. Okay, and this is the beginning of the end. At 11:30 in New York, the price goes up to 160, and this is just crazy. Everybody's like, well, we'll go to 200. By 11:45, it was 162. Then the Treasury posted Grant's order to sell gold. 15 minutes later, the price dropped to $135.
Wow.
Okay. Now this is amazing. It's not like it's different than here than today because gold was real money. So it's like the value of your house and the value of everything around you went up and down with those kind of margins. Okay, it's not. It's a lot different than just stock or gold today. And old Thomas Jefferson, he was quoted talking to a Western Union operator at the time. He said, "You know, we're so lucky. We haven't got a penny." So he was the only. He didn't lose anything, but all these people were losing millions of dollars. And it took a week to unravel the thousands of orders that were placed that day. There was $5 million worth of gold orders. Jim Fisk, he ended up losing $30 million. Jay Gould, he came out okay. He sold all his stuff, all his gold, and but he was nobody's favorite person. I can tell you that. His saying was that the day after, he said, "Well, each man has to drag out his own corpse." So, and gold ended that day, Black Friday, at $131, or 131 to the greenback. The government only ended up, they sold only 2 million. The threat of selling was more detrimental to the gold lockup than anything else. It scared everyone. General Grant, or President Grant, avoided any legal mess because he really wasn't, he didn't really know what was going on. Boss Tweed, Jim Fisk, Jay Gould, they avoided criminal prosecution because they owned most of the judges, and the judges mostly made some money too. There was a congressional committee that lasted a long time that brought all this information out to light, and that's how we know all about this thing. So anyway, that was the gold lockup of 1869.